Another day, another patch, another game. Welcome back to another Teamfight Tactics guide. Today we dig into the latest meta for patch 9.20 and review the best comps to be running right frickin' now. In patch 9.20, we saw some minor adjustments to XP required to level for both level 5 and level 9, as well as some drop rate adjustments for higher rarity units at the end of the game. The biggest changes, however, were the nerf to Frozen Heart's duration going from 4 seconds to a whopping 1 second, meaning that this item is now effectively an aura item only and removes the benefit of running this on units like Assassins that will only pass by an enemy brief. The Assassin 3 bonus crit chance was cut in half from 10% to 5%, and we saw a nerf to Wild attack speed bonus from 12% to 10% per stack. This means that Wild Assassin got a bit weaker, but it is still a strong build to run in 9.20. The first build I'd like to talk about today is a new comp that is growing in popularity, Dragon Knights. Knights saw a very small reduction in 9.20, but nowhere near enough to put them out of the running. With Dragon Knights, you are stacking 4 Knights for that wonderful damage reduction, but adding in Aurelion Soul for the beastly damage. Until we see a change in how the Dragon synergy works, placing an Aurelion Soul in your build with another dragon will always be effective. He simply hits too many units for too much damage and comes with a free Dragon's Tooth. It's free real estate, people. In this build, you'll want 4 Knights with Mordekaiser, Poppy, Sejuani, and Kayle. Mordekaiser and Sejuani are required since Mordekaiser gives us the Phantom bonus, and you really can't survive late game without Sejuani's Teamfight ultimate. However, until you get a good 2-star Poppy and Kayle, you can sub in any other Knight that you want. Add in Kindred for the Phantom bonus and the wonderful survival ability with anti-death that she has. Next, we are going to be stacking the units together, and we need a dragon bonus, so we include Pantheon and Leona, giving us the Guardian armor as well, which was buffed in 9.20. And lastly, place in Aurelion Soul for pew pew lasers. For positioning, you want all the units put together to benefit from the Kindred's ultimate and the Guardian buff, so you can place them either far left box, far right box, or stack them in the middle. If there are a lot of assassin opponents in your current lobby, you can take 1 or 2 of your knights and place them in the far corners to bait out the assassin jump. Item-wise, you'll be hunting for caster items for Aurelion Soul. This is the Death Cap, Morellonomicon, and then casting items like Shojin's, Rage Blade, and Seraph's Embrace. The same goes for Kayle with items that make her cast more with Shojin's and Rage Blade. And lastly, it's always worth it to put Guardian Angel and or Morellonomicon on Sejuani. For the next build, we are seeing some new experimentation with Kai'Sa since her buff as well, so I'd like to highlight a Void Brawler build. This build uses 4 Void, 4 Brawler, 3 Assassin, and uses Akali and Kai'Sa as your main damage output. This build is fun to run since it's new and not a lot of players are using it yet. Also, Kai'Sa is just very entertaining to watch. The build consists of 4 Void with Kha'Zix, Rek'Sai, Cho'Gath, and Kai'Sa. 4 brawlers ideally are Blitzcrank, Vi, Cho'Gath, and Rek'Sai, and your 3 assassins are Kha'Zix, Akali, and Kai'Sa. As always, you can sub in Zed for Akali until you get her online. Additionally, you can sub in Kassadin for your 4th Void until you get Kai'Sa. And lastly, put in a Jinx because why not? You get the 2 Hex Tech bonus with Vi, and she's incredibly powerful, and in this build, you do need the extra damage. Item-wise, get the typical Seraph's Embrace on Akali. You can still run Infinity Edge on her, though it's weaker than last patch since the double nerf to both the 3 Assassin bonus and Infinity Edge itself. Kai'Sa and Jinx do very well with a Giant Slayer, and I'd recommend getting a Rage Blade or Static Shiv on Kai'Sa, as she does scale really well with attacks. For placement, since you're running Assassins, it is optimal to place your units in the back of your grid so the enemy runs forward as your assassins are jumping. Next, it wouldn't be a meta build if we didn't cover the Imperial Knights. This build is very strong in 9.20 and is probably actually the strongest build in the game since Wild Assassin got nerfed. With Imperial Knights, you're working towards 6 Knights, 4 Imperial and 2 Demon, with Swain and preferably a Darken on Katarina. Early game, look to lock down a Knight build with Darius, Garen, Poppy, Sejuani, and Draven. You can flex the Poppy and Sejuani for other Knights if you need to, but getting the 4-Knight bonus gives you a strong early and mid-game comp. Late game, you'll want 6 Knights with Darius, Mordekaiser, Poppy, Sejuani, Kayle, and either a 6th Knight or, even better, a Knight's Vow. Placing the Knight's Vow on Swain is the most optimal to keep him alive and keep him moving. Add in 4 Imperial with Katarina, Draven, and Swain, and of course the Darius that you already have. The bulk of your damage will come from Katarina, Draven, and Swain, but you will still get a sizable amount from your other Knights and Sejuani. Placement wise, since you are running Knights, you want to put all your Knights up front, but since this build isn't CC heavy with only a Sejuani in the build, you do want to spread them out, as AoE CC is very common in teamfight tactics. Personally, of course, I like putting Draven and Swain in the back middle and then spreading units around them to protect against assassins. For items, a Darken on Katarina is a strong pickup, and I recommend getting either a Seraph's Embrace or a Hextech Gunblade for her for extra power. Draven still works best with a Bloodthirster, Rageblade, Infinity Edge, but there's tons of other items that you can put on him. Guardian Angel, Dragon's Tooth, or even Warmogs can help keep him defensive as well. Morellonomicon, Warmogs, and Thornmail fit all well on Sejuani, though Thornmail is starting to fall off a little bit, especially with the Knights reducing the damage. And of course, Morellonomicon, Guardian Angel, and Knight's Vow are what you want to give to Swain. And my favorite build for 9.20 is the Brawler Gunslinger build. This build is so elegant and clean, and I love running it. This build focuses on getting all 6 Brawlers online and then simply adding 2 Gunslingers for ranged damage. It's a balanced build that has flexibility in item choices and placement, and it was one of the easiest builds to get ramped up, as it doesn't really have a whole lot of requirements in it. Get all 6 Brawlers in the game and then add in Jinx and Lucian for the 2 Gunslinger bonus and the 2 strongest Gunslingers in the game. Jinx works extremely well with a Giant Slayer, as we've mentioned before, as she gains attack speed from her passive, and then the splash damage from the 2nd tier of her passive will give her more procs on the Giant Slayer. Ionic Sparks work great in this build, as you do need a little bit more damage than most other builds, as you're more beef than damage output. Most often you want to put the Ionic Sparks on Blitzcrank, as it does give him more ability power and keeps him alive longer. And placement wise, I like spreading all of these out with the Brawlers up front, and then Lucian, Jinx, and 1 or 2 Brawlers in the back line to keep the 2 Gunslingers safe. And finally, Wild Assassin is still very potent in the meta right now. However, instead of covering that in this video, I did a full video covering that build from the start of the game to the end of the game, and you can find a link to that video on screen and down in the description. That does it for the 9.20 meta best comps video today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.